This episode of App Judgment is brought to you by Netflix. Go to www.netflix.com/AJ for your free trial membership. That was in harmony.
Hello and welcome to App Judgment, your source for exceptional expert opinions and reviews of all things mobile apps. I'm David Prager. Now, although App Judgment is definitely expert, imagine a coalescence of experts. The thought did cross our minds, and that's why we have Sarah Lane here from the Twit Network joining us today as a guest host.
Hi!
Welcome.
That's me.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, David Prager.
So, over at Twit, you host a show that kind of makes you an expert on iOS.
Yes, iPad Today is a show that I co-host with Leo Laporte. You may have heard of him. Great guy.
Yeah, I didn't know that guy.
Yeah, we worked with him both back in the day. We pretend that we don't know each other, but we know each other really well. And we talk about iOS, but more specifically the iPad and everything that's great about the iPad. Some things that aren't great, but mostly stuff that we like.
So here in App Judgment, I think we focus ever so slightly more on the iPhone, I think, just because it's been around longer.
Right.
There's more apps that are made for it. So
well, you also do Android too, so it's like the iOS and Android are easier to compare when you're talking about phones.
So, but I hear that you're here with a list for us that kind of focuses a little bit more on what the iPhone has that maybe the iPad's lacking.
Exactly. Like I said on iPad Today, we mostly talk about apps that we like because why focus on or spend a lot of time on apps that aren't really worth our time? However, in our research, we do come across apps that just are better on the iPhone than the iPad, which is a shame, and that's what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
So should we just get into it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, first app, Instagram. Now, you and I both use a lot of Instagram. It's an iOS-only app.
Yep, and we covered it on App Judgment.
And okay, so everyone who watches App Judgment is already familiar with Instagram. Instagram is by far my favorite app right now. I mean, I launch it as often as I launch Twitter, as much as I check my email. It's a big deal. You can use it on the iPad. But it's not optimized for the iPad, and these are photos.
Yeah, and so it's basically, Instagram is like a Twitter feed, but only photos.
Exactly.
Kinda.
Well, and and comments and things like that, and it's like, I generally think that if you blow up something to 2 times its size and it's just text, it doesn't look great, but it's okay as an iPad app. With photos, that's different. Second is Foursquare. Now you might say, Foursquare check-ins, is that really like the best iPad app? Well, Foursquare came out with a pretty hefty update in December, which allowed, they're really trying to bring in, especially with competitors like Instagram now, they're trying to bring in the whole photo check-ins to the whole thing. Because
so you can add photos to locations.
You can add photos to locations, and you can add photos after the fact, which is actually kind of a cool thing. If you and I go to dinner, we take some pictures, and we both checked in on Foursquare, and then later we're like, oh, remember we took this fun picture. We can then go back and add that to our night.
And so you can run Foursquare on the iPad.
You can run Foursquare on the iPad just fine.
Now, can you location base it? Is there GPS on the iPad?
Of course.
Okay, so you'll see where you are, you can check in.
I mean, I have a 3G iPad, and of course there's a Wi-Fi only, but it still uses triangulation.
And it just blows it up, so it looks like blown up. Okay.
So again, the photo thing is a big issue because with Foursquare, you can check in, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as you get your point across. But when you're starting to look at other people's photos and commenting and things like that, it almost gives it an Instagram feel, and that's why it needs to be optimized for the iPad.
Before we get to our next app, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor.
So guys, you're probably already aware of this. Netflix is a company that brings movies to your home. They deliver them. I don't know if you had heard this yet.
Are there little Netflix delivery trucks?
I don't know how it works. They just appear in my mailbox.
Okay.
But actually, the biggest thing now is I don't actually get tons of DVDs delivered to me. I actually use the Watch Instantly a lot more. And I use it to catch up on like a lot of TV shows and stuff because they have like entire seasons.
That's pretty rad. I mean, I don't, but it's cool that I have that option.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Watch Instantly library has gotten like tons and tons bigger since they first did it. Like a year ago, it was much smaller. Now they've got way more stuff, and they have way more ways to watch it. Like I watch it on my PS3. But you could also, like a lot of people I know do it on the PC or like on the Wii, on their Mac. I do it on the Mac a lot at work.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. But
that's
between you and me.
Have you ever just had them deliver the discs to your work too? You might as well do that too.
I should have them deliver the discs here. That would be amazing. And of course, the DVDs come in about 1 business day if you decide to do the direct disc thing. You can watch as many movies as you want. Shipping's free. No due dates, which is great, because back in the days of video stores, I was the guy who would like rack up like $75 worth of late fees. So I would go in and I would just tell them that
You're like way older than me. That's a video store.
If you're not a Netflix member, App Judgment viewers get a free trial membership. You go to www.netflix.com/AJ. Be sure to use that URL so they know we sent you. I'm not that much older than you.
So speaking of photos, what's next on your list?
Speaking of photos, there is a little blogging site, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called Tumblr. I use Tumblr religiously. I'm more of a lurker than a poster, but Tumblr is, for anybody who's sort of in the Tumblr network, very kind of big artsy community, a lot of fashion folks, very heavy on photos. Tumblr is just, that's part of people's blog. You know, very rarely will you just see a text-only Tumblr. Okay, so Tumblr has a pretty good iPhone app. They've had it for a while. In fact, they bought the original company that had made the iPhone app and just kind of acquired the whole thing and really haven't done any work on it since. So it's kind of like, oh, the iPhone app's fine. They don't have an iPad app at all. Now you might say, well, you know, do they have a mobile site that works well in Safari? They do actually, and it does work well. But Tumblr is one of those companies that would really benefit from having something that is iPad native. You know, Twitter does this really well. They've got an iPad app that's very unique to the iPad. It doesn't work like any of their other experiences do. Tumblr doesn't have that. And you know what's kind of interesting is that they haven't really, it's not that they haven't expressed interest, but it's just not first on their list in development. There's an independent company that made an app called Tumblr. You may have heard of it. It's like $1.99 in the App Store, and it's very popular. I've bought it, and I use it, but it's kind of like Tumblr's missing out on big revenue potential here by not creating their own iPad app. How hard can it be?
They're working on that, hopefully. All right, we've got 2 more apps. What's the next on your list?
Okay, the next one is very obvious, but I'm gonna bitch about it anyway. It's the Facebook app, or the lack thereof of Facebook iPad app, because as Mark Zuckerberg has told everybody recently, the iPad is not mobile. So we just don't. Why would we?
And that's what the CEO of Netflix said, that no one watches on a mobile device. He said that,
which is crazy because Netflix is like, I love Netflix on my iPad. So Facebook it's very easy to pick at Facebook because they've clearly not expressed a lot of interest in making an iPad app. Whether or not they're working behind the scenes to do that, I have no idea.
Maybe they have 500 million users and they figure that they're going to have them regardless, maybe? No, they got to make the experience.
Well, you know, Facebook also they have a good excuse, and that's because their mobile site works really well. You know, if I launch Safari and I go to my Facebook profile, things work very much like they work on the web. And I understand what Zuckerberg's point is that they've got an iPhone app, it's limited, it's better than it was, but they're not doing a lot of development on it. And then they've got their web experience, and they feel like the iPad is the equivalent of a web experience more than it is, you know, a bigger iPhone app. That said, I don't know. I mean, again, Facebook, lots of photos, you got your news feed. There's an app called Friendly, which for a while, I think it got bumped off recently, but for a while was the top paid app in the App Store for months and months and months. They're making bank off of Facebook, and Facebook just doesn't seem to care.
Yeah. So what's the last app?
Finally, this company has disappointed me in more ways than one over the last year or two.
Yahoo?
Yahoo doesn't help because, well, Yahoo is easy to make fun of these days. You know, everyone's like, Yahoo so, you know, easy jab there. But yes, this company is owned by Yahoo, and they don't even have a good iPhone app. But they don't have an iPad app at all. Can we guess which company I'm talking about?
I know exactly which one, which is
Flickr.
Flickr.
What's wrong with you guys? Okay, so Flickr had first Flickr didn't have an iPhone app at all. So iPhone's out, and you know, Flickr community, a rabid base of users. There's nothing. Then they come out with an iPhone app. I had reviewed it and I thought, well, you know, it's a good start. They haven't done anything on that app for over a year now.
I like their mobile site better on the iPhone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the problem is that the mobile site it's fine, but it's like a waste of an opportunity. The iPhone app sucks. You can't, one of my favorite things to do is browse via contacts. Like, what have my contacts done, uploaded recently? You can't even do that on the iPhone app. It's awful. And they don't have an iPad app at all.
I've been the biggest Flickr fan, and honestly, this is the one thing, like, I'm gonna keep using Facebook without a good app. Flickr, I'm actually starting to use it less and less and less because they're not supporting it with the devices that people are using.
Flickr, I think, of this entire list, Flickr had the best opportunity to blow us all out of the water with an amazing iPad app that would get people to love it again. And they've just sort of blown it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks so much for coming out here with a lot of photo-centric lists. I can't wait for the iPad 2. I might buy an iPad for real and own one. So thanks again.
You don't have an iPad yet?
Be sure and watch Sarah Lane on iPad Today, which airs weekly live on Thursdays.
Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, and of course you can subscribe at twit.tv/IPT.
Awesome. Thanks so much for watching App Judgment. If you want to write us in and tell us what you want to see, send us an email at appjudgment@revision3.com. You can also find us on all the social networks like YouTube/AppJudgment, Facebook/AppJudgment, Twitter/AppJudgment. Find it all. Get back to us. Let us know what you think. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.